A lone figure pushes a cleaning cart through a dark, empty office building, long after the rest of the staff has gone home. This is a 29-year-old woman whose primary clinical complaint is severe anxiety at work. Looking at the clinical vignette for case 3.2, we see these defining data points highlighted in her history. She is a 29-year-old woman, she specifically chooses office cleaning at night, and she drinks too much alcohol. This is an entrenched pattern. She has a decades-long history of occupational instability, frequently resigning from jobs because she struggles to work alongside others. To manage social situations, she relies heavily on alcohol as a coping mechanism, occasionally making a fool of herself in an attempt to relax. This presentation represents a debilitating psychiatric condition, causing a level of dysfunction that far exceeds the scope of ordinary shyness. Mastering social anxiety disorder requires looking past the superficial symptom of nervousness to deconstruct the self-reinforcing cognitive behavioral loop of avoidance driving the pathology. The first step in evaluating this patient is defining her primary trigger. Her anxiety is specifically tied to performance in social situations, like speaking in front of others. This fear manifests physically as profuse sweating, driven by a deep, shame-based psychological fear of looking stupid. The timeline here is critical. This is a lifelong pattern extending back to her adolescence, representing decades of untreated symptoms. It is equally important to note what is absent from her presentation. There are no psychotic symptoms reported. However, screening for co-occurring depression is an absolute clinical necessity for any patient enduring decades of social isolation. By establishing the exact nature of the performance trigger and its adolescent onset, we form the baseline required to accurately prune the differential diagnosis tree. This diagram maps our diagnostic decision tree. Starting from the node of a social or performance trigger, we have 4 primary branches to evaluate: generalized anxiety disorder, avoidant personality disorder, agoraphobia, and medical causes. First, we examine generalized anxiety disorder, or GAD. We rule out GAD because that condition involves pervasive, nonspecific worry. This patient's anxiety is strictly situation-specific. Next, we evaluate avoidant personality disorder, a strong consideration given her long-term behavioral pattern. But personality disorders are typically ego-syntonic, meaning the patient feels their behavior is natural and aligned with who they are. This patient experiences acute active distress regarding her isolation. We must also consider agoraphobia, given her refusal to use group transport or travel in other people's cars. We eliminate this because her core driver is the fear of negative evaluation by others, not the fear of being trapped without an escape route. Finally, we assess potential medical causes, such as thyroid dysfunction or cardiac arrhythmias. Her specific, shame-based psychological triggers point away from purely somatic origins, leaving only the pathway to social anxiety disorder. The severe occupational and functional impairment confirms this is a clinical disorder rather than normal introversion. Precise psychiatric diagnosis requires isolating the core driver, the fear of evaluation, from phenomenologically similar conditions like pervasive personality structures or generalized worry. The foundational pathophysiology of social anxiety disorder begins with a constitutional anxiety sensitivity, compounded by an acute fear of negative evaluation. From this baseline, patients develop severe cognitive distortions, specifically engaging in catastrophizing. A key distortion here is mind reading. The patient falsely assumes her peers are constantly judging her as stupid or incompetent. This flowchart maps how these distortions mandate a behavioral response. The initial social trigger leads directly to catastrophizing, which points to a specific maladaptive response: avoidance. We see this in her extreme occupational choices. She works isolating night shifts to ensure she does not have to interact with coworkers. When forced into social situations, she turns to a secondary maladaptive response: alcohol use. Pharmacologically, alcohol acts as a disinhibitor, granting the patient short-term relief from her acute anxiety. The fatal flaw of this coping mechanism is that it structurally reinforces the avoidance cycle. By relying on alcohol or isolation, the patient never learns to tolerate the trigger, ensuring the feared situations remain permanently anxiety-provoking. Every single avoided office party and every intoxicated social interaction actively trains the brain to maintain the phobia. Avoidance and substance use function as the mechanical engine driving the progression of the psychiatric disorder over decades. The clinical reality is that 60 to 70% of patients improve with treatment, but achieving this often requires a combination of psychotherapy and pharmacology. The first-line pharmacological approach utilizes selective serotonin reuptake inhibitors, or SSRIs. As shown here, SSRIs help lower the baseline intensity of the entire anxiety loop. For board exams, remember that paroxetine is the specifically FDA-approved SSRI for social anxiety disorder. Benzodiazepines must be prescribed with extreme caution. They are restricted to short-term use due to the high risk of dependence, especially in patients already prone to substance coping. The definitive curative psychological intervention is cognitive behavioral therapy. CBT acts as a wedge, forcefully severing the reinforcement between short-term relief and cognitive distortion. The first arm of this therapy is cognitive restructuring, where the patient learns to actively challenge and dismantle her catastrophic thoughts about negative evaluation. The second arm is exposure therapy, which systematically forces the patient into the exact social interactions she fears. The crucial mechanism of exposure is habituation. The patient must tolerate the initial spike in anxiety without escaping to eventually extinguish the conditioned fear. This is paired with necessary lifestyle interventions, the immediate cessation of alcohol to prevent baseline anxiety worsening, coupled with dedicated social skills training. Effective treatment is never about immediate comfort. It is about mathematically breaking the avoidance loop to achieve long-term extinction of the phobia. To lock in the diagnostic criteria and patient presentation for board exams, we use the social mnemonic. S stands for the physical response, sweating fear in social settings. O represents the functional impairment, occupation unstable. C maps the psychological distortion, catastrophize evaluation. I is the behavioral result, isolation pattern long. A highlights the primary mechanism, avoidance extensive. And L denotes the disease timeline, lifetime from adolescence. You can see these criteria mapped directly back to the original clinical vignette. This condition carries a massive disability burden, silently dismantling a patient's potential in both their relationships and their career. The ultimate clinical goal is deploying curative exposure and pharmacological therapies to permanently dismantle the entire feedback loop. Diagnostic accuracy depends on identifying and intercepting the mechanical cycle of avoidance driving the patient's symptoms.